Now, keep your texts and comments coming in a minute. I'm going to be talking to Shay and Barry, and later in the programme we're going to be talking about a number of other sporting matters, talk to Phil Fanning as well, and hopefully to Brian Gardner about 40 years ago today where the Blues won. So a lot of interesting comments coming in about the COVID payments. I'll take those in a little while, and other people texting about different matters of 40 years ago today. Firstly, I'm going to go straight to Shay and Barry. Shay and Barry, good morning.
Morning, Damien.
Barry, I'll start with yourself first. Your dad was buried over the weekend, Jimmy Searson. Ferrybank FC, obviously, and Waterford Junior League. But apart from that, talk to me about him as a dad first.
Thanks, Damien. Jimmy's like every other father. He was there when he could be for us, Damien. His passion was soccer, as you know. So we did kind of come a second place growing up. Shay covered it very eloquently in his eulogy, saying like we kind of really did see the best of Jimmy. Soccer was his passion, as I said. But as a dad, yeah, he was good. He was like any dad of his era. He wasn't a new man, new age. He was strict. He was strict,
yeah.
And he did it his way or no way. He brought us where he could when he could. We were nearly every weekend at the beach or out in Dunhill or up in Lismore. We were somewhere every weekend when he could bring us, and he was decent, and we were blessed to have him.
Blessed to have him. Shay, good memories, as you say, as Barry says, great memories, and a lot of those memories flooded back over the weekend, I'm sure.
Oh, listen, Damien, it was just incredible. I mean, you lose somebody, and as I've said so many times, you know yourself what you feel about them, but it's only when they go you suddenly realise what everybody else feels about them. And the outpouring has been fantastic from the soccer world, from everybody, from like on what you were saying about him as a dad. I mean, soccer took priority, and I don't think that's a bad thing in a way. It was just he was that unique kind of person that every club had one of back in the day, and Ferrybank had him, but the Waterford Junior League had him. The Munster Council had him. I think he did some stuff on the National Council as well. So, and he did 3 shifts in the flour mills. So, I mean, there wasn't too much left at the end of it. The grandkids got the best of Jimmy in the last 10, 15 years, no doubt about it. But I wouldn't change a bit of it.
Yeah. Barry, you're involved in football. I know the family are involved in football as well, and it's a lovely testament as well. And the amount of people that have texted in over the weekend, and we heard Martin Flavin talking on Friday on the day of the burial, and we just wanted to do a little piece about Jimmy this morning, and we'll be talking about Joe Harney in a few minutes. But in terms of that legacy and that ability, I suppose, to remain a gentleman and to remain, I suppose, a friend of so many different people. In a way, ye had him as a family, as I say, but as you said as well, he was owned by so many people. So many people had a bit of Jimmy Searson, didn't they?
True. I'm involved with the Women's League, the Waterford Women's League, predominantly, Damien. My son was playing soccer up to last year, James. But my 3 daughters, Shay's son, obviously, Scott, is playing for Villa. My 3 daughters, 2 of them play for Bowes and one of them plays for Ferrybank. Jimmy he was just proudest punch of all his grandkids. Amber, especially Amber, used to play soccer when she was a bit younger. There's one thing I take pride of, Damien, is going around with a team, bringing them to different clubs around Waterford. There's very few I could name when you walk into their clubhouse that there's not a picture of Jimmy Searson on the wall, either present the trophy or in a photo with a team celebrating. It's amazing. My youngest daughter, Mia, she's 9. She's all the time running out saying, "There's Grandad, there's Grandad." It's absolutely amazing, the amount of people that know him that you wouldn't expect to know him, and they know him because he got around so much and he was involved so much in Waterford in soccer. And you know, it's amazing. It's fantastic, and it's lovely. It's kind of consoling to know that he was respected and that he was held in such high regard throughout the city. And especially the county. Yeah,
and the county, as you say, and Martin was talking about his involvement with the Munster Council as well. And Shay, this idea that his name will live on as well, and the grandchildren, and like, he was a good age, and it's never a good time to lose anybody. But the fact that you had him for so long, and that you were so, and he was very good health. I only met him there a few months ago. He's great health and enjoyed his pint whenever he was out. And I can hear the emotion in both of your voices, and I know you just want to thank everybody for all the good wishes.
Oh, listen, Damien, I mean, from the off, it was such a beautiful send-off. I'll admit I was dreading it when we got the bad news that there was no hope. And we said, God, like in these times, Noel Brown said to me yesterday, he would have had one of the biggest funerals that Ferrybank ever saw. And he would have. And it was kind of one of those things, it's kind of the first thing I thought of, this is not what he would have wanted. It was beautiful because I suppose after being such a public man all his life, there was only 13 of us in the church. But it was intimate. It was personal. The neighbours came out in Marymount. They lined the route up to the church and they applauded the hearse as we walked behind it. The Ferrybank Soccer Club did a guard of honour. I mean, I was so proud. Myself, Barry, and our two sons, Scott and James, carried the coffin in, and we carried him to his final resting place. Like, it's a funny thing that out of something so bad, you can get such pride, and it's a great source of comfort. But there was another side to Jimmy that I'd just like to mention as well. There was a very humorous side to him, and anybody that ever met him will always remember his humour. And he was notorious for a couple of things. But if I can just give you two quick instances. Many years ago, his own father was a guard. And there's a famous incident where he got my grandfather's cap and coat and went down to Harney's in Dunhill, because my mother's a Dunhill woman. And I think it was a little bit after hours, and rapped on the door of Harney's and shouted, "Guard of the law." And there was a scamper out the back of Harney's, and for years they never knew who it was. And just 2 weeks ago, and we only found this out yesterday, there's a local girl out here whose daughter was doing trainee nursing in the hospital, and she was taking Dad's temperature around 2 weeks ago. And she said that he was a lovely man, but as she was taking his temperature, he was going beep, beep, beep. Like, he had an amazing sense of humour. He had a devilment in him. And like, when Man United would win, you'd see Jimmy everywhere. When they'd lose, he'd be in hiding. And the other thing that came to me the other day...
We haven't seen him in a long time, Damien.
The other thing that came to me just over the weekend was, and I said it at the eulogy, during our wedding, when myself and Adele got married, we were just about to head down the aisle as man and wife. It was May 20th, 1995, Cup Final Day, United and Everton. And, of course, Jimmy would have to have the radio in the church listening to the Cup Final. And as we turned to go down, he whispered to me, "We're losing 1-0. I mean, he never missed an opportunity. But I know you have a tribute coming up to the late hurler. Jimmy was there in 59. He was there in 63. It wasn't just soccer. If Waterford were playing tiddlywinks, he would have supported Waterford. It was just soccer was his thing. And years ago, he found himself in hospital in the same ward as Paddy Buggy, the former GAA president. Yes. And Paddy was a neighbour of ours in Marymount. And the funny thing was that when the GAA people would come in to see Paddy'd kind of look over and raise the eyes, and kind of go, "Look who I'm stuck with." And when the soccer people would come in, my father would do the same. But when there was nobody there, the two of them were chatting away because they were the best of friends.
That's lovely.
So, there are so many memories. We could talk forever about them.
Listen, Barry and Shay, to you and your family, deepest condolences from myself and everybody here on the team and everybody in WLR, to you and your family. And God bless you, okay?
Thanks very much, Eamon. Thank you.
Barry and Shay, thanks so much. Mind yourselves. Take it easy. Thank you. Shay and Barry Searson there, remembering their late dad, Jimmy Searson, who died. And everybody in Ferrybank, want to wish our deepest sympathy and condolences as well. Now, we're going to be talking about Jim Harney in a few minutes. Phil Fanning is going to talk to us. So if you have any thoughts and memories about Jim, please text us 083 333 975. Nanny Eileen has texted in to say happy 13th to Helena Gator. Another texter regarding the COVID-19 payments. I don't hear anyone complaining about the government TDs getting their full salary and expenses for doing nothing. Damien, regarding Keelings, I won't be buying any of their products again. I think it's wrong that what happened. Damien, as the saying goes, you can please some people some of the time, but you can't please all the people all of the time. Good morning. Isn't jealousy a wicked thing? Most of those people complaining about the COVID payment, they probably can't get it, but would gladly take it if they could get it. P.S. I work full-time. I don't care who gets it. People should mind their own business. Another text. I stayed at UHW for a week at the end of March. I'd like to thank all the nurses and doctors in A&E, especially Claire, for the wonderful care they gave. I stayed in Ward 6. I'd like to thank all the doctors, nurses and cleaners. Fantastic. Especially Mikey, Paul and Alison. Couldn't have got better care. It's refreshing to listen to that woman, Anne O'Rourke, such a hero, doing fantastic work in a war zone. An amazing woman from Bill in Ferrybank. Another texter to our WhatsApp said something similar. When you hear of the issues over there, you have to be, I suppose, lucky for what you have here. Now I'm going to be talking to Phil Fanning about Joe Harney. Apologies, I said Jim earlier. I had my mind on a texter who was texting in his name Jim, so apologies about that. Of course, Joe Harney. I met Joe before the Ballydurn clubman was cornerback in the team that drew with Kilkenny. Just a quick text in from a person there, Damien. We'd like to take our hat off to all the retail workers, please, especially. And those, this lady said, I went into work in one particular shop and a situation happened. Another texter regarding the COVID payments. Correct me if I'm wrong, but is the corona payment meant for people who lost their jobs and had nothing coming in? Would you all stop moaning and be grateful for what you have? Everyone is hurting, says this texter. Phil Fanning, good morning.
Good morning, Damien.
Thanks very much for joining us, Phil. We want to pay tribute to Joe Harney, the former Waterford hurler. He died at the weekend and his memorial mass took place yesterday. Tell me about Joe, the great Joe Harney, please, Phil.
Well, I wouldn't. For my part, Damien, Joe, my first memory of Joe is when he, as a young lad, he was a young lad of just 21 at the time, when he made his way into the Waterford senior hurling team in 1957. Now, that was the year where Waterford really came back on stream after 1948, when they went to the All-Ireland final and beaten by Kilkenny. And that year, Joe would have been about 21 years of age at the time, probably the youngest, if not, it was maybe the second youngest. I think Larry Guinan might have been just younger than Joe. And Joe would have been the second youngest, I think, on the team at 21 years of age when he came on. And it was a big thing at the time because Joe and his clubmate, Batty Foley, actually, Batty, who was well known for always wearing a tam, a beret in a match. But that's my memory of Batty. But Joe and Batty came onto the Waterford team in 57, Waterford panel in 57. And it was unusual because they were the only two players from non-senior clubs to get onto the panel at the time.
Yes. And
Joe was selected to play against Limerick in the opening round of the championship. And Limerick were actually the Munster champions at the time. And they were strong favourites to go much further in 57. And Waterford shocked them in the athletic grounds in Cork. And Joe made his debut that day. Now, he didn't start any game the remainder of the 1957 championship. Tom Cunningham was on the team at the time and played in the forward line against Limerick, I think. And he was recalled to the back line where he normally played in the for the rest of the championship. But Joe was a valued member of the team, and he came on as a substitute in the All-Ireland semi-final against Galway. And then he settled into the Waterford team and never present right into 59. And
he was, from what I have spoken to people about him, Phil, like to get, as you say, for a non-senior club player to get onto that team, the competition was very tough. There was some really, really good players. Very tough. He was a really, he was a really good player.
He was. He stood out, like, you know, as a good hurler. And the thing about it is, which I kind of noticed, what I remember about it was that Waterford that time had all good hurlers. There was no one on that team who wasn't really a good hurler. And it was a time, if you like, when the third man tackle in hurling was a big thing at the time.
Yeah.
And like you can recall the stories about the Tipperary team in Hell's Kitchen.
Yes.
And all that, where you had the Rattler Byrne, Michael Marr and Kieran Carey, and they took no prisoners. And Waterford had a full back line in 59 of Joe Harney, Austin Flynn and John Byrne. And all were brilliant hurlers. All had come through minor grades of great hurlers in colleges and everything. And, you know, and it was a big change. It was kind of a big difference of what was there. And when Waterford played Tipperary in 1959 down in Cork and lashed in 9 goals past Hell's Kitchen, at the other end of the field you had 3 great hurlers who showed that they could tough it out with the best as well. And Tipperary got a hammering that day that kind of, and even I'd say, resonates with them to this day. But that particular day, like, they showed the three good hurlers.
Yeah.
They changed to an extent the manner in which hurling was played by full backs, Joe, Austin and John Byrne on that day. But then they went on into the All-Ireland final, and there's an amazing thing about the All-Ireland final was that Waterford went in as strong favourites. And Joe, in the meantime, had played on Christy Ring in the Munster final and had held, as far as my memory goes, held Ring scoreless from play. And that was a great achievement on Joe's part.
Yeah.
And then when we went on to the All-Ireland final, then Waterford were caught a little bit cold in the sense that Tommy O'Connell, who was a great young player with Kilkenny at the time, was corner forward, and he scored 3 goals of Kilkenny's 5-5 or 5-6 in the All-Ireland final. And luckily, Waterford were saved on the day by Seamus Power's late goal. And the big question then after the match was like, what would they do, would the selectors do with Tommy O'Connell, because he has scored 3 goals on Joe. But to the selectors' credit, and to everyone's credit, Joe's credit, they didn't lose faith in him. And the next day, in the All-Ireland final, Tommy O'Connell hardly hit a ball. Joe Harney had a brilliant game at cornerback,
yes, and
Tommy O'Connell didn't score at all in the game. And
that's phenomenal. Yeah,
it was the big thing afterwards. I remember reading afterwards. My father actually was writing the News and Star at the time, and I remember reading the thing afterwards about it, where he said where the selectors did not panic, and it was a great thing that they didn't panic, because Joe Harney gave a magnificent performance in curbing Tommy O'Connell in that game.
He remained a true Gael throughout his life, and his legacy lives on as well. Yeah.
If anyone met Joe would see Joe as a very humble man, and would never be one to blow his coat about anything. And himself and his late wife Breed, who died just last year, they were a great couple for matches and for everything, and they simply loved the club games and everything else. And a big thing for Joe, of course, was in recent years when his grandson Hall won the minor and won 21 All-Ireland medals with Waterford. That was a great thing for Joe and Breda.
Yes,
and they really loved that, and it was great for them. Like after all those years, like, you know. And the other thing about Joe was like there's a last time one of the times I do remember I had a great night with him. It was the night Waterford celebrated. Frankie Welch organised the 40th anniversary due in the Granville Hotel there.
Yes.
And I remember it was a great evening altogether, and all those players were there. And people often said afterwards to Frankie, why did you do a 40th do? Why didn't you wait until the 50th? And Frankie said, what do you want to do? He said, we have them gone by then. He said, and he wasn't far out. It was a great night that night. I always remember it. And Joe and Breda were great company. And they really they really enjoyed that night and other nights too since,
Well, Phil,
so
you've paid
it was a great thing, for Ballydurn Club, and they gave them a great send-off as far as they could on Sunday there yesterday. The whole parish and everybody, club players and neighbours, everybody lined the route all the way to the church yesterday to the interest,
Phil.
And I would like to say it was just on my own behalf, on behalf of people like Larry Guinan and Martin Morgan, those lads, soldiers, with him, wish sincere sympathy to Joe's family.
Phil, thank you very much. A beautiful tribute. Thanks, Phil.
Okay, Damien. Look.
God bless. Mind yourself. Phil Fanning from the Waterford News and Star there on Joe Harney. And again, from everybody here in WLR, in the Deise Today team and on our news and current affairs staff and everybody in the building, our deepest sympathy. Some texts and comments coming in. Again, please pass on our condolences. Take solace that Joe was with Breda, his lovely wife, who died only 9 months ago. A lot of people texting in about that. Keep your texts and comments coming in. 083 333 975. Now, can you please say a happy birthday to, Roy Thompson and Mairead O'Grady. Happy 14th wedding anniversary from all the family. Izzy Foley, happy birthday to you. A lot of texts and comments coming in. Again, all our Ballysaggart listeners, condolence and sympathy in the death of Bill Ryan, a stalwart in the community. Very proud granddad to 17 grandchildren, including the Waterford hurlers, the Bennett brothers. Damien, all the doom and gloom, please say a big thank you to all the Tramore postmen and women going beyond their duties with messages and other stuff and calling to people and just having a little chat with people at a social distance. Another texter, I saw some council workers and they're not maintaining social distancing and don't have masks on. What is the situation with council workers? Well, we'll find out. Another person saying about Keelings, saying that you can't blame Keelings for bringing in workers when you can't get Irish to do the job. They're getting €350 a week, some of them, to sit at home. Another text in, can you please say hello to her lovely daughter, Dr. Laura Barry, the German Road, who's working as an ICU doctor in Glasgow. We are very proud of her. That's from all the family and from Annette as well. A texter in about somebody talking about the retail workers, saying they're doing great. But my mum went into one shop recently, Tesco's I think it was, tried to change trousers she purchased there a week before for work, as she works in a nursing home, and was told they can't take them back because of the virus. This makes no sense whatsoever. When online shops take your clothes back, that's purchased on time. Is there any clarification on that? Good morning, Damien. Another matter of retail workers. Another person talking about COVID payments. I was being paid by my employer on the wage subsidy, but was told on the 4th of April that I was being temporarily laid off and I was to apply for the COVID-19 payment. I've been refused 3 times, saying I don't qualify as my employer is claiming the wage subsidy for me. I haven't received any payment from anyone for 2 weeks now. Who owes me the money? Is it my employer or is it revenue? There's a good question, and we will ask. We're getting somebody else on tomorrow to talk about that. Another texter, Damien, there is a loophole in the system. It's flawed. I know a lot of people getting the COVID-19 payment and they're still working. And also people only working 2 days a week, earning a lot less now. They are getting paid, earning a lot less than what they're getting paid now, receiving the COVID payment. There's going to be more matters on this in time to come, says this person. Now, we're going to be coming up in a minute, hopefully talking to Brian Gardner. Anybody who's involved and interested in sport, they'll like Matt Keane is going to be coming in to talk to us. The 40th anniversary, 40 years ago today. Good morning, Damien, says Tony. I was at the Cup final in 1980 in Dalymount. A brilliant day. I was behind the goal when Brian Gardner put the ball in St. Pat's net. The jubilation was unreal. At full time, we all started to climb the fence to try to get on the pitch, but the security boys didn't want us to get onto the pitch. But we managed to get on and celebrate it like none other before. The manager, Tommy Johnson, was amazing. And other people texting in about that. Derek McGrath rang to say brother Billy died a few weeks ago. He ran a bus to the game back on the day. Just wondering, does anybody remember it? Keep your texts and comments coming in. 083 333 975. That was Dick McGrath that rang in earlier about the brother Billy who ran the bus on the day. Good morning, Damien, says Michael. I attended that match in the company of my dad Richie, R.I.P., brother Richard, and father-in-law Paddy Power, R.I.P. What was important about the match was that Paddy Power, formerly of O'Brien Street, also attended, and Waterford first won the Cup in 1937. Not many could say they witnessed the Dublin. the double. And Declan Barry texted in to say, we went to the match in a minibus from Finnegan's on the Mayor's Walk. Mostly the Barrys, Mickey Mooney from Hennessy's Road, Jimmy Gunter from Widger's Butchers. We picked up their brother Michael at the Hideout in Kilcullen. Long live the memories. Now let's see, Brian Gardner, good morning.
Good morning, Damien. How are you?
I'm wonderful, thanks. Say hello to your favourite memory man, Stato, Matt Keane.
Matt, how are you, my friend?
How you doing? Good morning, Brian. Nice to hear you so chirpery on this Monday morning.
Yeah, well, it's the highlight of my day, Matt, because we're all under lockdown, and any conversation we do, my friend, is always a good day.
Ah, lovely. Brian, tell me first, what part of England are you and what are you doing with yourself at present?
Well, at the moment I'm on a rota at work. I work in a school which is still opened at the moment for children of key workers. So I'm kind of tied up in work at the moment. I'm living at the moment about 10 miles north of Blackpool. It's a pretty quiet location, but, you know, as the way things are at this moment in time, we're all in lockdown. I'm sort of been identified as a key holder and a key worker working in a school. So, unfortunately, I'm in work as normal from 6:45 in the morning.
Yes. Brian, one of the things that's happened in the last 6 to 8 weeks with the lockdown is this, I suppose, nostalgic and looking back. And it's natural that people do that because the future is so uncertain in so many respects and the present can be so traumatic. So looking back is a very positive thing to do. It's a very life-affirming thing to do, and no better place to look back than to sport. I know you've been over different times and you've had good connections with Matt and different people here. If somebody said to you now, if somebody met you on the street and said, "Oh, Waterford, how did you get on at Waterford? Tell us about your times in Waterford." What would your overriding memory be?
Oh, it was absolutely brilliant. As you may know, I have family over there, a daughter, son, and grandchildren. So, hence the regular visits back to Waterford. But yeah, my time in Waterford was absolutely fantastic. The town is brilliant. The people are fantastic. They welcomed me with open arms at the time when I came over as a young boy in 1978, which seems a million years ago, and it is a million years ago. But no, overall, I mean, absolutely fantastic.
Matt Keane, when Brian Gardner came to Waterford had a relatively good team, I suppose, compared to the 60s team. It wasn't bad. Peter Thomas was making his swan song coming back in there. But tell me, what sort of a player was Brian Gardner?
Fantastic player. I mean, we won the league for the last time in 72-73 season. And, you know, then you had 74, 75, 76, kind of reasonable enough good teams. But the next thing, Brian arrived over. And we all kind of knew we had a special player on our hands. We really did have a special player on our hands. We kind of knew straight away those who were been watching the Blues for a long time. So, yeah, it was fantastic capture, I think, you know, to get Brian on board. And, of course, Sid Wallace.
And you're not just saying that because you're listening.
No, I'm not. I'm not patronising or anything. No, we just knew we had a special player on our hands. Class player.
Well, I think when I arrived in 78, I'd just been released at Preston. I was a young lad. I was only 18, 19. And I think looking back on those few years from 78 to 80, the team were improving every year. You know, we first year there, we reached the semi-final in 78. Is that right, Matt? Against Rovers?
Yep.
And two finals followed. So in all, we had 3 semi-finals, 2 finals. Of course, that got us into, you know, to play European football. And I think we were evolving from 1978, and I think it culminated in that team of 1980, where I think that year we introduced a lot of quality players. I can think of the lads from Dublin, Larry Murray, Mark Megan, along with Vinnie McCarthy and Mick Madigan in midfield, with a lot of quality in there. I think also we had a good solid defence. I mean, Jeremiah, Tony Dunphy would just run through walls for you. And, of course, to play alongside the great Al Finucane with Tomo behind you was just a fabulous base. Overall, the balance was good. The 2 lads up front, I think, played in an era where you had these 2 boys playing up front against you, Paul Kirk and Sid Wallace. They would scare any defence to bits. So I think overall we had a really good balance of of skill.
It was a beautiful mixture of the top-class local players, wasn't it? And, the lads, like Brian and Sid, and when Tommy Jackson, the manager, brought down Paul Kirk, that was a masterstroke, from Northern Ireland. So it was a beautifully balanced team, Damien, as Brian said.
Brian, can I ask you, I was just looking at the stats leading up to the Cup final day itself. You only conceded 3 goals, I think, in the run-in in that Cup. I think scored 13 or 14 in the run-up. It was built on that strong defence. What was it like, that defence, like in terms of that telepathic way you had of working with each other? How would you describe it? Would Finucane give out to you if you made a mistake? Or what was happening there, the dynamic with that?
Well, Al was a quiet player. But it was Tomo behind you that gave out all the abuse if you weren't doing your job. But we had a system there where Al Finucane would virtually be the spare player, and he would fill the holes in the back four, and we virtually played man for man at the back. So if the guy that I was marking in particular period of play sort of made a run inside, I would go with him, and Al would fill in the gaps. So everybody knew the job. And as a defensive unit, I mean, we had Tomo. Tomo was absolutely brilliant. I mean, not just as a goalkeeper. We know how good Tomo was over the years, but as a talker, and especially for the young players. I mean, myself and Jerry. I mean, I think Jerry was 20, and I was 19, 20.
Yeah.
And the fact that Peter and the likes of Al Finucane would talk you into positions that just made up for your sort of lack of knowledge, if you know what I mean.
And Tommy Jackson made a masterstroke because in that final day, Tony Dunphy was doing a man-to-man marking on the magical Jackie Jemison. Brilliant player. And, that's the kind of player that he loved playing against, Jemison. So Tommy Jackson said no. He took off Tony Dunphy and he put Al Finucane on a man-to-man job with Jackie Jemison, and Al used to stand off, and Jemison never liked that, and Jemison got totally frustrated in the second half, as indeed is all the St. Patrick's and Eddie's players, and he got so frustrated, Brian, that Jemison lashed out and got a yellow card for taking a swipe at Al Finucane. So that's how good Al Finucane was. And here's an interesting one, Damien. He created history that day, Al Finucane. He became the second man to do what only one man had done it before. Johnny Fulham captain Shamrock Rovers and Bohemians to win the FAI Cup. Al Finucane had captain Limerick in 1971, so he became the second man to captain 2 different teams. What a record.
Did you feel, Brian, the weight of history there? I know you're only a young lad, and sometimes young lads don't feel that weight of history, but the fact that Waterford hadn't won the Cup for 43 years before...
43, beat St James's Gate in 1937, 2-1, yeah.
You were there at that, Matt, were you?
Morning, Damien. I'm gone.
Did you feel the weight of history, Brian, or was it just a case of go out and play ball? Tell us the feeling of the obsession that Waterford had with that cup, particularly those 3 or 4 years leading up to it.
Well, when I initially went over, when I officially came over to Waterford, you could tell there was something different in the cup games. Everybody was up for the cup. There was a buzz in the town, and particularly, I came over not knowing this, obviously, and I'm sort of reacting to this as the years go by. And after the first couple of years, you get to realise, the importance of the town or the team winning the cup. And it really got to you, because we knew every year when this cup competition came around, it was the one that all the supporters wanted us to see us. With it being 40-odd years and 43 years and whatever, the fact that it was the cup coming round, sort of the buzz was different, the attitude was different, the expectations levels rose, and when we could be sort of bang average during the league, and once the cup came round, It was, we felt as though we had to step up.
You had to do it. Brian, you'll always be remembered about talking about the goal in the final. Now, you scored in the round one. We beat Thurles Town 5-0. But you also got the winner against Athlone Town. Remember Athlone Town, the game? That was one hell of a tough game in Kilcorn Park. And you got the winner against Athlone Town. I had a funny feeling we were going to go out that day, but you popped up with the winner again against Athlone in the third round.
The thing about that goal, and it's relevant to the cup final goal as well, is because we had set situations. We had, if Vinnie McCarthy was on the pitch, he would take all the corners. Tony Dunphy would stand on the near post. And all we asked Vinnie McCarthy to do was try and score directly from the corner, inside the near post. Knowing that obviously he couldn't do that every time. But the fact was it was getting him to concentrate to put it into an area where, it was hard to defend. And my position, I used to stand on the corner of the 6-yard box, just stand there, didn't make any runs, didn't make any movement whatsoever. And that's how the goal came against Athlone, because I think actually Vinny took a corner from our right and the ball swung in and hit, and it was flicked onto the bar by Mick Smith, onto the face of the bar, and just dropped to me, and I was 6 yards out. I couldn't miss.
The goal in the cup final, to score in the cup final is brilliant, but to score the winning goal in the cup final, when that ball came across, you'd taken up a position quite far back in terms of away, like you were outside a line with the penalty spot, like you were a fair old distance out. Had you planned that, Brian?
Not at all, no, because we hadn't. We knew our positions for corner kicks. That wasn't in that was virtually in the penalty area.
Yeah, it was right on the edge. Yeah,
it was right on the edge. So I don't know. I don't know why I stood there. I don't know. All I knew was that my area was towards the back post.
Right.
And there was a stroke of luck to that goal, Brian, because Larry Murray was having a brilliant game, and actually Kevin O'Sullivan was the referee and he gave a free. Larry Murray had been fouled and Larry wanted to play on.
Wanted advantage.
Yeah, he wanted advantage to be played, and the referee said no, free kick. And then Larry whipped over this ball. Fantastic free kick. So it's a fortuitous free in one way. And so, probably the best decision a referee ever made for Waterford football.
a Cork referee. I think it was the first time there was Cork officials. You can see it on the YouTube video. He was actually annoyed that he wasn't given the advantage and taken the free kick, and he kind of just booted across.
I think with madness and anger, and he just said, he whipped it over, with anger. And Brian got onto it.
Brian, it was some header, and I know you were known for that powerful header, but you directed it into the far post, and it hit the inside of the far post. It was some, like, when you made that connection, did you think you knew it was heading close?
It was a very breezy day, wasn't it, Brian?
Yeah, it was a very breezy day, and the wind was blowing into that goal. So any young guy that's learning to head the ball is always coached to head the ball in the direction it's come from.
Yes.
That gives you that you don't have to put any power into the header because the power's already in the delivery. But when Larry, he absolutely smashed this ball over, and if I hadn't been there, it would have cleared everybody by yards. And he smashed this ball over. And actually, when I made contact with the ball, the ball actually started off, and it was possibly about a yard outside the far post, and with the wind pushing it in towards the goal. But I think because of that wind and the trajectory of the ball, it totally put it out of the keeper's reach, because the keeper was backtracking to get across to the other side of the goal. And of course, like we've all been coached as a kid, head the ball back from hence it came. And I've headed a lot of goals in my time, or as a player. But that was it. It's like a shot at golf, guys. When you take your 7-iron and you absolutely mint it off the middle of the club, it's as sweet as a nut, and that's how it felt. It just came off perfectly, and the bend of the ball gave the keeper no chance.
You're preaching to the converter, because Damien Tierney got numerous goals they'd have for Park Rangers and a lot of other teams.
Now listen, you had a chat with Jimmy McGee. I'll move swiftly on. You had a chat with Jimmy McGee afterwards. Have a little listen to this, Brian.
Long day. Brian Gardner, they'll probably make you a free man.
Well, I don't know about that, Jimmy, but it was certainly a tremendous experience today, for everybody concerned. Really pleased for the players, just everybody concerned. Over the moon I am.
What about the goal?
Well, as what I can remember, I was on the halfway line when Larry Murray picked the ball up on the right-hand side, and he went past the fullback and he got a free kick. The fullback fouled him, and as usual...
Larry was annoyed that he didn't get the advantage there.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. And as in all the set pieces, we've got it worked out that certain people go up and certain people stay back. It just so happens that I went up and I usually pick up the 5 posts or anything that comes over the top. And it was a hell of a free kick. It was driven in. It came over Paul Kirksend, just knocked it. I could see it was going in all the way.
Yeah.
I could see it was flying.
That's the sort of goals you dream about as a boy.
Oh, great. I had a dream about it last night, actually.
How old are you, Brian?
21.
Listen, do you know you were a 7-year-old when the man beside you here first came to Waterford?
Oh, I don't think you'll agree with that, but never mind.
Peter, I bet Peter Thomas, the goalkeeper supreme, I bet you were despairing of ever seeing a cup medal.
I was beginning to think about it, Jimmy, to be perfectly honest with you, and it's very strange, actually. There was a Waterford. I'm living in Tremor outside of Waterford, and there's a lady out there. She gave my wife one of the old-fashioned threepenny bits yesterday with a rabbit on, and she says, give him this. She says, I'm a dog racing goer, and it's been bringing me luck the last 3 or 4 weeks, and I put it in my cap today going out and had it in the back of the goal. My God, it seemed to work, didn't it? Eh?
Now, some lovely memories there, and Peter.
Late great Jimmy McGee. Brian, it meant so much for the town, for the club, for the city, for the county, for the South East. It was phenomenal, wasn't it?
Oh, it was fantastic. I mean, it was just from the following week was amazing. The excitement was unbelievable. The atmosphere was brilliant. On the day, it was fantastic. And I know myself and Matt have had many a conversation in the years gone by, saying, "Oh God, Matt, it's another year. Go, oh, geez, it's another year."
You've hit the nail on the head, Brian, because the night before Johnny Logan had won the Eurovision Song Contest for Ireland. Yeah. And what was the name of the song? What's Another Year?
And
by the way, I had an accident that Monday night when you get back to City Hall. I fell off the big lamppost outside the City Hall. Almost broke me bloody back.
Did you?
I did, fell off the lamppost.
My goodness.
I was trying to get a look at that.
Oh no! Amazing. I mean, and then going back through the years, the recent years, as I said before, I've family in Waterford in Johns Park.
Yeah,
so Lindsay, if you're listening,
say hello to them now. Say hello to them now, there, Brian.
Yes, Lindsay, love you loads, sweetheart, and the kids. Take care of yourself. Stay inside. Be safe. But yes, I mean, going back over the years, the conversations I've had with Matt and a few of the other lads there, and the people in the town. It's 40 years, and it's people approach you and speak about it. Like it's last week or last season.
Yeah. And
it's just amazing. But obviously, I'd like to say that although I'm getting a lot of the credit for being the goal scorer and this, that, and the other, I mean, got to give a lot of credit to the lads involved as well. Of course. The lads, the local lads who've had to live there and keep showing the medals every week.
We mentioned one man just before we finish. He was there that day. He's still there. He is Mr. Waterford Football Club, the greatest kit manager in the world, Mr. Michael Welsh.
Oh, Michael.
He's still there, Brian. What an absolute gentleman.
Michael is amazing. He's got my cup final shirt, by the way.
Wow.
Oh, has he? Yeah.
Yeah, he has. He's kept that quiet. I don't know if he's still got it. But, I gave him he asked me for my shirt, and I gave him my shirt. Oh. I have no bits of memorabilia, kit, shorts, or anything like that left from any team I played for. But I know Michael's got my shirt.
Well,
and
lovely.
When we were over for the championship dinner a couple of years ago, and the lads got promoted. I asked him if he'd still got it, and he said he had.
Well, that's it. If he said it, he has it. He has it, yeah. He has it.
Lovely. Matt, final word to Brian there.
Yeah, happy anniversary, Brian. Stay safe. Love to Lindsay over there. Stay safe. It's a dreadful time for us all. But, you know, as Damien alluded to earlier on, isn't it lovely to look back at that wonderful, wonderful occasion? 40 years today. Stay safe, Brian. Thanks for the memories. Thanks for the future. Yeah. And best of luck to everybody over there across Channel.
Thank you very much, Matt and Damien. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Brian, it's a pleasure talking to you, and you mind yourself, and we'll see you over in Waterford again soon, please God.
Absolutely.
Just before we go, Brian, Johnny Matthews.
Just over Christmas Day, unfortunately, we lost Johnny. What a fantastic guy. I was so upset. I was literally sat there crying my eyes out. The shock, I mean, when I first came to Waterford, Johnny and Peter Thomas really took me under the wing. I think I was only just turned 18 at the time. And they really, really looked after me. And through the years, the following years, when I got sort of established in the team and Johnny went elsewhere, he went to Limerick, I think, in 81, we still remain close friends. And to hear the news of Johnny's passing was really upsetting. So I'd just like to pass on all, you know, my condolences, my thoughts and prayers to Mary Claire and all the Matthews family. It was really, you know, really sad to hear the news. So God bless you all.
I was speaking to Mary Claire last week. Johnny unfortunately left us on Christmas Day. It was the most horrendous Christmas Day for everybody. But the good news is that Mary Claire is doing well. She's loving her gardening and all that. And she has to do a double job, and she said, because Johnny used to do the weeding and she, you know, finish off the plants and that. Now poor Mary Claire has to do them all. But no, she's good. And Jenny and all the gang, they're doing okay. They're doing okay, bro.
Fantastic. If you pass on my best wishes.
I will indeed.
We will do. Thanks again, Brian. Thank you. Thank you very much for that, Brian. We've run out of time. Any texts we didn't get to, I'm sorry. We'll try and take some of them tomorrow. Michael from Tallow said, I met Brian a few years ago. What a gentleman. And the Harney family texted in. We'd like to thank Phil Fanning for the beautiful tribute he gave our dad, Joe. We're all heartbroken. Thank you. Please, can you read out this text? As I say to everybody here in WLR, our deepest sympathy to all the Harneys. Take care. Mind yourself. Jeff is up next.